I never believed the dead could reach across the divide between their world and ours until the night my wife texted me 5 years after her funeral. Even now, as I replay that moment in my mind, I can still feel the way my throat closed, the way my breath staggered inside my lungs, the way the silence of the house suddenly felt too full, as if someone else were breathing beside me. Her name, glowing on my phone screen, tore open a wound that had barely scabbed over in half a decade, a wound I pretended had healed through time and routine and exhaustion. But grief never healed. It only found new places to hide. The message was short. Just my name. Just her voice in a digital whisper. "Joshua, are you there?" My thumb hovered over the keyboard, trembling, and for a moment I wondered if this was how insanity started quietly, gently, in the stillness of an ordinary night. I typed back, numb, terrified, pleading with reality to stay put. F. This is your first time here. Welcome. You're in the right place. Here, you'll find stories told in a way that feels real, like you're sitting across from someone confessing their deepest truth. Don't forget to subscribe right now and turn on notifications because you don't want to miss what's coming next. And to my returning family, my loyal subscribers, thank you. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your shares. You are the reason this channel grows every day. You are proof that these stories matter, that they connect us, that even in pain, we are not alone. So sit back, clear your mind, and prepare yourself, because the story you're about to hear is not just entertainment, it's a mirror that reflects the best and worst of what it means to be human. This is a twisted tale. But the replies came instantly, familiar in rhythm, in phrasing, in the way she always wrote to me like she thought too fast and typed too slow. And when she said she never left me, something in the house shifted. Some presence I had learned to ignore, stirring awake. The attic was the only place I hadn't touched since she died. I couldn't bring myself to open the old wooden door or climb those creaking stairs because her scent still lived in the boxes up there, sealed away like a ghost that refused to fade. But she told me to go. She told me not to run from whatever waited for me. My hands shook as I reached for the railing, every step like walking deeper into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The air grew colder the higher I climbed, the kind of cold that comes from memory, not winter. My phone buzzed in my hand, but I didn't look at it. I already knew it was her. Already knew she was watching me climb toward the last pieces of her physical life. When I reached the attic door, the wooden frame vibrated faintly under my palm, as if something inside had just moved. The sound that followed was so soft I almost convinced myself I imagined it a slow dragging across the floorboards, too controlled, too deliberate to be the house settling. I swallowed hard, leaned my forehead against the door for a moment, and whispered her name. The air pressed back against me, warm for an instant, like a hand brushing my cheek the way she used to when she wanted me to breathe. I pushed the door open. Dust swirled in the dim cone of light cast from the single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The air smelled like cedar and old letters, and the faint echo of her perfume that clung to her clothes long after she wore them. Her boxes sat exactly where I left them, untouched and accusing. Nothing seemed disturbed, yet the feeling in the room was wrong. Too heavy, too still, too expectant. I stepped inside, each creak of the floor sounding like a warning, and the moment I crossed the threshold, the door clicked shut behind me on its own. I froze. My breath hitched painfully in my chest. Something moved to my left. Not a shadow, not an animal. Something. I turned slowly toward the old trunk she used to store her journals in, the one I had never opened after she died because she told me once, years before, that if anything ever happened to her, I'd find the truth where she hid her fears. At the time, I laughed, thinking she meant poetry or some childhood memory she never shared. But now the trunk looked different, closer to me than I remembered, as if someone dragged it forward inches at a time, waiting for me to notice. My phone buzzed again. I raised it with shaking hands. Open it. My mouth went dry. Elena, what am I going to find? A long pause. Then, the part of me they tried to erase. My knees weakened. I dropped to the floor in front of the trunk, my fingers curling around the dusty latch. It was warm. Too warm. As if someone had touched it seconds before me. I hesitated, my breath shallow, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it might shake the rafters. Then I pulled it open. Her perfume rushed out first. Then the memories. Then the truth. Inside were journals, 15 of them stacked in the same order she used to keep them on her bedside table. On top of them lay something that made my stomach twist into a knot. Her old phone. The one the hospital returned to me in a sealed bag the night she died. I had thrown it into the trunk without turning it on, unable to bear the idea of seeing her last photos, her last messages, her last moments. But now the screen glowed faintly, as if sensing my presence, as if waking up from a sleep it was never supposed to break. I reached for it, my hand trembling uncontrollably, and the moment my fingers brushed the edges, a cold wave surged through me so intense I gasped aloud. I dropped the phone back into the trunk, clutching my chest, trying to understand the sudden pressure crushing my ribs. My phone vibrated in my hand again. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." I squeezed my eyes shut. "What are you trying to show me?" Silence. Then, the night I died wasn't natural. You know that deep down. You always knew. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. No, Elena," they told me. They lied. My breath broke. My hands shook so violently I had to steady myself on the floor. Who lied? Silence again. The air grew heavier. Open the first journal. I reached into the trunk, my fingers brushing the cover of the topmost journal. Her handwriting danced across the front in a flowing script I memorized years ago. "For Joshua," it said, "when you're ready." I felt tears blur my vision, but I opened it, and her voice seemed to fill the room as I began to read. The first line stole the breath from my lungs. "If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident." I froze. Every bone in my body turned to ice. The journal trembled in my hands as I continued reading. Her words unraveling a story I never knew she lived, a danger she never told me about, a fear she hid behind smiles and late-night kisses and whispered reassurances that she was fine, always fine, but she wasn't fine. She hadn't been fine for a very long time, and she wrote everything down because she knew one day the truth would matter more than her silence. My phone buzzed again, her presence tightening around me like a cold embrace. "Keep going," she urged. My voice cracked. "What happened to you?" The attic lights flickered. The journal pages rustled. Something creaked behind me, slow and careful, like footsteps from a memory. My phone vibrated once more. "The person who ended my life is closer than you think." I turned toward the dark corner of the attic, every muscle in my body locking, every instinct screaming at me to run even though she told me not to. The floorboards groaned softly. My heartbeat roared. And then, behind me, in a voice barely more than breath, something whispered my name. The whisper didn't come from my phone. It didn't come from my memory either. It came from behind me, too close, too real, too alive. "Joshua." My blood turned to ice. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The air pressed against my spine like someone standing inches away, leaning in, their presence bending the temperature around my skin. I forced myself to turn. The corner of the attic was empty. But the dust on the floor? It had been disturbed. 2 faint footprints, bare and small, the exact size of Elena's feet, pressed into the wooden boards, leading from the trunk toward the far wall, and then stopping abruptly, as if she'd taken 2 steps out of the dark and simply vanished. My phone buzzed sharply in my trembling hand. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." That didn't calm me. It terrified me in a new way, because she wasn't denying the footsteps. She wasn't telling me I imagined the whisper. She was telling me to accept it. "Elena, if you're really here," my voice cracked, "show me something. Something only you would know." The bulb flickered overhead. Then the trunk behind me slid an inch across the floor. Not violently, not dramatically. Gently, exactly the way she used to pull a drawer open when she thought she was being quiet. I staggered backward, my breath shaking as the trunk stopped moving, perfectly aligned with the footprints. My phone chimed. You asked me to prove it. I pressed a hand against my forehead. This can't be real. This can't be. Joshua, she wrote, you need to stop thinking about what's real and start thinking about what's true. The distinction hit me like a blow. Real and true were not always the same. I looked back at her journal, open on the floor where I'd dropped it. The next lines were messier, as if she wrote them in a hurry, hands shaking, afraid someone might see. I've been followed for weeks. I haven't told Joshua because he'll worry. He'll try to protect me, and that will put him in danger too. My chest tightened painfully. Elena, why didn't you tell me? I whispered, eyes burning. My phone buzzed again. Because you loved me too much. You would have run toward the danger, not away from it. I covered my mouth with my hand, swallowing a broken sound. She knew me too well, even in death. Another message came. Turn the page. I hesitated, then flipped to the next entry. The date was 8 days before she died. I think they're getting closer. I saw the same car from last week parked across from my office again. Same dent on the bumper. Same tinted windows. I asked Sandra if she noticed anything strange lately, and she went pale. She told me to drop it, but I can't drop it. Not anymore. Whatever's happening, it's connected to what I found. I exhaled shakily. What did you find, Elena? A cold breeze passed behind me. The hairs on my arms lifted. My phone buzzed. Not here. Not in the attic. Then where? Downstairs. Your study. The drawer you never open. Behind the old notebooks. My stomach lurched. I knew the drawer she meant, the one I shoved everything into after she died. Too numb to sort through it. I hadn't touched it in years. But then another thought hit me like ice water. Elena, how do you know what's in my study? The attic fell silent. Too silent. My phone vibrated. But this time it wasn't a text. It was a picture. A live photo. Taken seconds earlier. A photo of me, standing in the attic. From behind. My heart stopped. My throat closed. The edges of my vision blurred with panic. Elena, I whispered, shaking. Is someone else here? For the first time since this began. She didn't answer right away. Then, not anymore. Not anymore. I grabbed the journal, shoved it under my arm, and headed for the attic door. But before I reached it, something caught my eye. Something halfway hidden behind one of the boxes. A small USB drive. Black. Unlabeled. Deliberately placed. The moment I saw it, my phone lit up again. Take it with you. And hurry. A floorboard creaked downstairs. Not from the house settling, from weight, from footsteps. Elena, who's here? My phone buzzed. The one who never expected you to start looking? The attic light flickered violently. Run. And I did. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just ran. My feet slammed against the attic steps as I stumbled downward, gripping the railing with one hand and clutching the journal and USB in the other. The air felt different, charged, heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. Halfway down the stairs, I froze. A shadow moved at the bottom. Slow, deliberate, patient. I pressed myself against the wall, forcing myself to listen. The house was so silent, I could hear the pulse throbbing in my ears. Then another step. A creak. Something brushing lightly against the hall table. Someone was in my home. And they weren't trying to hide it. My phone vibrated violently in my hand. Don't go down the last step. He's waiting for you to. My lungs tightened like they were being squeezed shut. He, whoever Elena had feared, whoever had followed her, whoever she believed was responsible. That person was standing in my hallway. Another message came instantly. There's another way. The guest room window. You can make it. Just don't let him see you. I moved back up 2 steps, silently, heart pounding so loud I was sure it echoed through the walls. I slipped across the landing, feet barely touching the old floorboards as I made my way toward the guest room. My hands were shaking so badly I could hardly turn the knob. The door clicked softly, too softly to hear from downstairs. I slipped inside. The window was shut but not locked. As I lifted it, The cold night air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine from the backyard, and something else, something metallic. Fear. I started to climb out. Then I heard it. A voice. A man's voice. Talking softly, as if on the phone. She's been dead 5 years. There's no way he knows. Someone fed him this. Someone who wants him digging. My blood froze. He paused. No. He didn't leave the house. He's here. He saw something. I heard him in the attic. My hand slipped on the window frame. He was talking about me. I held still. Not breathing. Not blinking. We don't move yet. If he found anything, he'll lead us to it. Lead us? There were more involved. A sick shiver ran through me. My phone vibrated so suddenly I almost dropped it. A new message. He's lying. They already know you have something. Get out now. Don't hesitate. I swung my legs out the window and lowered myself onto the porch roof below. It groaned under my weight, and I froze, praying he hadn't heard. The porch roof slanted downward, leading to the ivy-covered trellis along the side. I began to climb. Halfway down, the porch light snapped on. Joshua, the man's voice, right behind me. I looked up, and for the first time I saw his face. A tall man, early 40s, short hair, wearing a dark gray jacket, gloves, and an expression so calm it made my blood turn cold. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't nervous. He looked prepared. He looked like this was exactly what he expected. "Why don't we talk?" he said evenly, leaning forward just slightly. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I didn't answer. I didn't think. I dropped the last 6 feet, landing hard on the ground, pain exploding through my ankle as I stumbled. But adrenaline shoved me upright. I ran across the yard, through the gate, into the street. My phone buzzed again. "Turn left. Don't go to the main road." I obeyed instantly. I bolted down a narrow path between 2 houses, my breath ragged, my heart clawing at my ribs. My shadow stretched out long and distorted under the street lamp. My phone chimed again. "Someone is coming around the block. You have maybe 20 seconds. I didn't question how she knew. I didn't doubt it. Not anymore. I ducked behind a parked truck, chest heaving, trying to quiet my gasps. My mind raced. I had a USB drive, a journal, and a dead wife guiding me through the dark. Another message. "They're after what I found. Keep moving. Head to Redwood Bridge. You'll be safe there for now." I pushed off the truck and kept running. The night swallowed me, the cold air burning my lungs, the weight of the house and the man inside it fading behind me as I sprinted through the streets, guided only by Elena's messages. Every part of my life was unraveling. My grief, my memories, my understanding of her death, and beneath all of it was a truth so enormous, so dangerous. She had tried to protect me from it even after death. But something inside me knew, whatever Elena had stumbled into all those years ago, it wasn't finished with us yet. And now I was in the center of it. I ran, not because I was brave, but because fear had taken control of my legs and refused to let them stop. The streetlights flickered as I sprinted past them, each one buzzing faintly overhead like a dying pulse. My breath tore through my lungs in sharp, painful bursts, and my vision blurred at the edges from the cold night air slicing against my face. Redwood Bridge wasn't far, maybe a 10-minute walk under normal circumstances, but like this running, hiding, hunted, it felt a lifetime away. My phone buzzed again. "Keep to the shadows. They're spreading out now. They know you ran." I glanced behind me. The distant shape of a man stepped onto the road 2 blocks back. Even from far away, his silhouette looked wrong, too still, too patient, like a predator that had all the time in the world. I pressed myself against a hedge and kept going. My ankle throbbed from the jump off the porch roof, but the pain meant nothing. The only thing that mattered was movement. The only thing I trusted now were Elena's messages. Every sound felt amplified: the scrape of my shoes on pavement, the hollow echo of a distant dog barking, the pounding in my skull. As I rounded a corner, Redwood Bridge came into view. A small, old footbridge, covered in vines and moss, crossing over a shallow creek. Elena and I used to come here on quiet evenings when we didn't want to be home, but didn't want to be anywhere else either. It held memories, soft ones, safe ones. Or at least, I thought it did. As I approached the bridge, my phone buzzed again. Stop. Don't cross. I froze instantly, sliding into the darkness beside an old cypress tree. One of them is waiting on the other side. He thinks you'll run straight across. My skin crawled. I scanned the far end of the bridge, and sure enough, a shape leaned casually against the railing, pretending to look at the water below. They knew this place mattered to me. They knew where I'd go. Elena, I whispered. What do they want? What did you find? A pause. Then, you'll understand soon. But first, you need to go underneath the bridge. Underneath? The space beneath Redwood Bridge was cramped, damp, and crawling with spiders. I used to joke about it. Elena used to refuse to even walk near the lower slope. But now, her next message came fast, almost urgent. Please, Joshua, trust me. I swallowed hard and moved down the embankment. The grass was wet with dew, soaking through my shoes. The mud sucked at my feet with each step, but I pushed forward until I reached the underside of the bridge. It was darker here. Colder, water trickled over stones, whispering faintly, breaking the suffocating silence. I crouched low, using the bridge's shadow to shield myself. My phone lit up again. Behind the third support beam, there's a loose wooden panel. Pull it. I crawled deeper under the structure, my palms sinking into the damp soil. When I reached the beam, I ran my fingers along the wood until they caught on a small gap. The panel slid free. Inside was a small black pouch. My heart thudded painfully. Elena, did you put this here? Yes, the day before I died. My throat tightened as I pulled the pouch open. Inside were three things: a folded slip of paper, a tiny key, and a ring I had never seen before, silver, engraved with symbols I didn't recognize. I unfolded the slip of paper first. There were only 5 words written in Elena's handwriting. Not an accident. Not safe. My stomach dropped. The night she died, the police had said it was a tragic accident, a hit and run. No witnesses. Quick. Random. Except Elena had known something was coming. Elena, who did this? I whispered. My phone buzzed. Not here. They're getting closer. I looked up sharply. Footsteps. Crunching leaves. Light. Cautious. Coming down the slope. My pulse roared in my ears. Elena's message came fast. Stay low. Don't move. 2 men appeared at the top of the embankment, scanning the darkness. Their voices carried down the hill. He has the USB. And probably the ring. He can't know what it means. He doesn't. But someone is feeding him information. My breath caught. Someone? They didn't say something supernatural. They said someone, but they didn't know it was Elena. One man stepped closer, shining a flashlight down the slope. Check under the bridge, he ordered. The other began walking toward me. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. Elena, I mouthed silently. What do I do? The phone buzzed softly, so softly I barely heard it. Into the water. Now. I looked at the shallow creek, frigid and dark, barely 2 feet deep where I was crouched. If I crawled into it, I'd be fully exposed for a moment. Go, she urged again. Please, Joshua, go. I took one breath, a single, desperate breath, and slid into the water just as the flashlight swept over the spot where I had been. The cold hit me like a slap. My teeth clenched instantly to stop from gasping. I lay flat, letting the water cover everything but my nose, letting the mud swallow me. The beam passed inches over my head. He's not here. Then he's still close. Spread out. Their footsteps moved away slowly at first, then fading into the distance. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't think. Just lay there in freezing silence until Elena messaged again. It's okay. You can get up now. I pushed myself out of the water, shaking uncontrollably. My clothes clung to my skin like ice-soaked armor. My fingers felt numb. My phone buzzed again. You need to leave the city. Tonight. Everything you have is in danger. The files, the key, the ring, and you. I forced my stiff lips to move. Elena, what is this ring? What did you get involved in? For a long moment, there was no reply. Then, something bigger than both of us. Another pause. And it didn't end when I died. My teeth rattled from the cold as I staggered up the slope, scanning the empty street. Elena, I whispered, heart pounding, where do I go? Her next message came instantly, as if she had been waiting for that question. Home isn't safe anymore. You must go to the last place we visited together. The place I told you I loved most. My breath caught. There were hundreds of places she loved, but only one she called her favorite. Elena, you mean? Another buzz. Yes, the cabin. The cabin. The one deep in the mountains. The one no one knew about except us. The one we visited 2 weeks before she died. The night everything changed. As I turned toward the road, clutching the journal, the key, and the ring, another message appeared. Hurry, Joshua. And then, you're running out of time. I left Redwood Bridge dripping, shaking, and cold enough that every breath felt like biting down on ice. The night wrapped around me like a warning, thick, unmoving, too still. I clutched the pouch tighter in my hand, terrified that if I let go for even a second, something or someone would rip it away. The streets were empty now. Too empty. My footsteps echoed behind me as I walked with my shoulders hunched, half expecting a hand to grab me from the dark. Every shadow looked like a person. Every car that passed felt like it was slowing down just a little too much. My phone buzzed. Stay on the side streets. Don't use your car. They've already marked the plates. My breath hitched. Elena, how do you know all this? For the first time, she didn't answer immediately. Then, because they're watching everything. And I've been watching them. That doesn't make sense, I whispered, my voice cracking with cold and terror. I couldn't finish the sentence. The world felt too unstable, too fragile to say it aloud. She didn't correct me. She didn't explain. But she didn't deny anything either. Everything I thought I knew about death, grief, reality, it was all unraveling faster than I could hold it together. But there was no time to question it. No time to breathe. Only time to run. I headed down a narrow alley, the kind Elena and I used to tease each other about. The kind people disappear into in movies, she'd say, laughing. Now I wasn't laughing. Each step made my heart pound harder. Each shadow felt like eyes watching me. As I reached the end of the alley, a car turned the corner slowly. Headlights swept across the walls, then onto me. I froze. The car slowed even more. My phone buzzed violently. Run. I sprinted. The car sped up instantly. Engine roaring. Tires screeching as it followed me down the street. I cut between houses, leaping fences, slipping in the wet grass. My legs burned. My lungs screamed for air. But adrenaline kept me moving. Halfway through another yard, the porch light snapped on. A dog barked viciously, lunging at its chain. The car screeched to a halt on the driveway behind me. A door slammed. Joshua, stop! No, no, no. That voice. It wasn't one of the men. It wasn't a stranger. It was Mark, my best friend. The person who helped me plan Elena's funeral. The person who stayed with me when the grief became unbearable. The person who had held my shoulder when I broke down at the gravesite. He stepped into the yard, hands raised slowly like he was approaching someone suicidal. Josh, listen to me. You need to stop. You need to give me whatever you found before you get hurt. Hurt? Mark, I breathed, staggering backward. What are you doing? Please, he said desperately, taking another step forward. Just hand it over. You don't understand what's happening. No, I whispered, a tremor, shaking my voice. You don't understand. Elena is... She's dead, he snapped, louder than he meant to. His voice cracked with something between fear and anger. She's gone, Josh. She can't help you. My phone buzzed in my shaking hand. I didn't even need to look to know it was her. Don't trust him. Mark took another step forward. Josh, whatever you think you saw, whoever you think is messaging you, it's not her. You're being manipulated. My fingers curled around the pouch. By who, Mark? I whispered, my voice raw. By you? His jaw tightened. Too tight. Give me the USB, Josh. My heart dropped. He knew. He knew about the USB, which meant, you were in my house, I whispered in horror. Mark didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. Give it to me, he said again, stepping forward. I backed away. He followed. This isn't a game. These are dangerous people. Who are they? I demanded. He didn't answer, but his eyes said everything. My phone buzzed again. Run to the woods behind the school. Don't let him touch you. I pivoted and bolted. Joshua! Mark shouted behind me, his feet pounding after mine. I didn't look back. I reached the chain-link fence at the edge of the neighborhood and climbed it, ripping my palm open on the metal. Blood soaked down my wrist. I dropped on the other side and stumbled into the darkness of the wooded trail. The trees swallowed me whole. Only the moonlight broke through the branches in thin, trembling lines. I ran until my legs almost gave out. Finally, when the sound of footsteps faded behind me, I collapsed against a fallen log, chest heaving, my entire body shaking violently. My phone vibrated once more. You can't trust anyone who knew me, Joshua. Not anymore. I looked up at the sky, the branches swaying like fingers trying to reach me. Elena, I whispered, tears slipping down my face. What is happening? Why were they after you? Why are they after me now? Her reply came slowly, as if she knew the weight of the truth might break me. Because I discovered something I wasn't supposed to. Something they killed me for. My breath hitched painfully, a sound between a sob and a gasp. Elena, what did they kill you for? Her final message of the night appeared like a knife to the heart. For uncovering what your best friend was hiding. The forest swallowed every sound except my breathing, ragged, uneven, and full of disbelief. I stared at the message, my thumb trembling above the screen. For uncovering what your best friend was hiding. Mark, the same man who held me when I broke down. Who helped me clean out Elena's closet when I couldn't do it alone. Who brought food to the house for weeks after the funeral because he said he was worried I wasn't eating. The one person I trusted. My phone buzzed again. You need to keep moving. I pushed myself up, every muscle heavy with exhaustion and fear. The dirt path stretched ahead through the trees, barely lit by the moon. Elena, I whispered, did Mark kill you? A long pause, an eternity. Then, not by his own hands. My stomach twisted painfully. What does that mean? Another pause, longer this time. Like she was choosing each word with care. He helped them. And he lied to you about the night I died. I stumbled, my hand grabbing onto a tree trunk to steady myself. Elena, why didn't he come forward? Why didn't he tell the police? Because he was part of it, Joshua. He wasn't supposed to know me so well. But he did, and he made a mistake. What mistake? I whispered. He fell in love with me. The world tilted. It felt like I'd been punched in the throat. Elena, he, Mark? I forced out, each word a struggle. Did something happen between you two? Her answer came immediately. No, I never wanted him. I loved you, only you. But he didn't accept that. A chill spread through me, colder than the night air. Memories shifted in my mind, Mark, avoiding eye contact whenever I mentioned Elena. The strange tension at our wedding, the way he asked if I was sure she was the right woman for me. The arguments, he said, were nothing. My breathing faltered. Elena, he killed you because you didn't love him? He didn't mean to kill me. He meant to scare me, to push me away from you. But things spiraled out of control once the others got involved. The others? Who, Elena? Who are these people? The reply came instantly. A group Mark was involved with. People with influence, wealth, secrets. The USB contains proof of what they've been doing for years. My hands trembled around the pouch. And the ring? It belonged to one of them. I stole it the night before I died. It contains a tracking chip. That's how they've been finding you so easily." My breath broke into pieces. "Elena, why would you steal something like that?" "Because I had to. I needed evidence to protect you. I knew they would come after me. I hoped they wouldn't come after you too." My throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me any of this while you were alive?" Another pause. Then, "Because if you knew, they would have killed you too." My vision blurred with tears. The forest rustled behind me. A snapping twig. A soft footstep. Someone was nearby. "Elena," I whispered desperately, "what do I do?" "Take the ring. Throw it into the river. Right now." I looked toward the faint sound of rushing water through the trees. It wasn't far, maybe a minute's run. I fumbled the ring out of the pouch, gripping it so tightly it dug into my fingers. Another footstep behind me. Closer. More deliberate. "Josh." The voice stopped my heart. "Mark." He stepped into the clearing, moonlight hitting his face. His expression was pained, twisted, with something almost like regret. "Don't throw it," he said softly. "Please, just give it to me, and I can fix this. I can protect you." I backed away, shaking. "Elena said," he flinched. "Elena is gone." "She's not," I whispered fiercely. For the first time, fear flashed across his face. Real fear. He stepped toward me. "Josh, listen. You're confused. You're grieving. They're using that to trick you. Whatever messages you're getting." A buzz in my hand. "He's lying. They're not from her," Mark finished, eyes filled with desperation. "Throw it, Joshua." "No," Mark said sharply. "You don't know what that ring contains. Without it, I can't stop them." "You are them," I said. Silence. Then his jaw tightened. "Throw it," Elena urged again. I turned toward the sound of the river. Mark lunged. Everything happened at once. I ran. Branches tore at my arms as I sprinted. Mark crashed through the brush behind me. "Joshua, stop!" "No?" I shouted back. The river came into view, shimmering under the moonlight. I reached the bank. "Don't do it!" Mark screamed. I hurled the ring into the rushing water with every ounce of strength I had left. It vanished instantly. Mark stopped running. His chest heaved. His fists tightened at his sides. "You just made a mistake," he said, voice trembling with rage. My phone vibrated. "No, you finally did the right thing." Mark's eyes burned into me. "You've started something you don't understand," he said coldly. "And now I can't protect you." He backed away into the trees. "This isn't over, Josh." His shadow disappeared into the darkness. I collapsed on the riverbank, shaking violently. My phone buzzed again. "You did what I couldn't do. Now hurry. The cabin is the only place they can't reach you." I gripped the phone, my heart aching. "Elena, why can't they reach me there?" Her response came slowly, softly, "Because that's where I hid the truth about my death." The silence inside the house felt heavier than ever after the investigators left. I stood in the dim hallway, staring at the spot where the detective had paused earlier, recalling how his eyes had drifted to the family portrait hanging crooked on the wall. It was a picture from 7 years ago, me, Emily, and Lisa smiling in front of the old lake cabin. The reflection from the window made it look like there were shadows moving behind us. Maybe it was just the light. Maybe it was something else. I walked into the living room and sat on the couch, dropping my face into my hands. The phone buzzed on the coffee table. My heart jolted every time now. But this time, it wasn't from Emily. It was from an unknown number again. She didn't tell you everything. Just 6 words. No name. No punctuation. But I felt a spike of cold run through me. I typed quickly. "Who is this? What do you want?" 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then another message arrived. "Look under her music box." It is her. I froze. Emily's old music box had been packed away. She used to keep it on her bedside table back when we were together. It played this soft little melody, she said, reminded her of childhood lullabies. I hadn't opened it in years. But my legs were moving before my mind fully caught up. I walked to the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled down the box labeled Emily's Things. The music box was wrapped in a faded scarf of hers. I sat on the edge of the bed and unwrapped it slowly, afraid that touching it would break something inside me even more. My fingers trembled as I lifted the lid. The melody played instantly soft, delicate, haunting. And there, wedged between the lining and the wooden bottom, was a folded piece of paper. My throat tightened. I pulled it out and unfolded it carefully. It was Emily's handwriting. I recognized the loops, the soft curves of her letters. If anything ever happens to me, please forgive me for not telling you sooner. I only wanted to protect them. Them? I reread the line. My heart hammered painfully. Who was them? My first thought was her sisters, or maybe someone from her old job. But the more I stared at the message, the more it felt like she meant something entirely different, something much closer, something she never fully let me into. I set the note aside and took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm in my chest. The room felt colder suddenly. Even the air seemed still. Then my phone buzzed again. Check the attic. A trembling unease crept over me. The attic was where we had stored everything from the early years of our marriage. Boxes of photos, old journals, keepsakes, and plenty of things Emily insisted we keep, but never explained why. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the creaking ladder. Dust floated in the beam of light as I pushed the door open. The smell of old wood and forgotten memories filled the space. I stepped inside. The attic wasn't big, but it felt overwhelming now, almost suffocating. Box after box lined the walls, but one box sat differently, pulled slightly forward, as if it had been moved recently. It was unmarked, taped shut unevenly. I knelt down and peeled back the tape. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them. At first, they looked like normal pictures: Emily smiling at the beach, Emily at her graduation, Emily with her friends. But then I found something different. Photos of a little girl, a girl with Emily's eyes, a girl I had never met. A chill raced through my body. The pictures showed the girl growing ages 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 at most. Emily holding her, Emily brushing her hair, Emily walking with her hand in hand. But I never knew Emily to have a daughter before we met, or during our marriage. My breath came out shaky. Under the stack was a document, a birth certificate. My hands went numb as I read it. Emily Rose Carter, father, name withheld. The father's name was blacked out, literally blacked out, thick ink covering it. Date of birth, a year before Emily and I even met. A daughter. Emily had a daughter she never told me about. My thoughts spiraled, questions hitting me from every direction. Why hide her? Who was the father? What happened to the girl? Where was she now? I dug deeper. At the bottom of the box was a sealed envelope with my name on it. I ripped it open. Inside was another letter in Emily's shaky handwriting, likely written when she was overwhelmed or afraid. If you're reading this, something has happened to me. I hid the truth because I didn't know who to trust, not even you. Though I loved you more than my own heartbeat, they were watching me, watching us, watching her. I never meant to lie. I only wanted to keep her safe. My mouth went dry. Safe from who? Before I could read further, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was longer. You weren't supposed to find her things yet, but now that you have, meet me where she used to take the girl. Midnight. Don't bring anyone. No name. But this sender knew everything. I swallowed hard. What had Emily gotten herself into? And why was someone guiding me through her secrets piece by piece? My flashlight flickered. Somewhere below the attic floorboards, something creaked in the house, slow, heavy, deliberate, like someone else was here. Watching, I held my breath. Then my phone buzzed once more. One final message. They're already inside. And in the silence that followed, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, methodical, getting closer. The footsteps in the hallway were too heavy to belong to a child, too slow to be casual, too intentional to be innocent. I stayed frozen in the attic, crouched over the open box, barely breathing. The air felt tight, thick, like it wanted to trap the sound inside it. Another step, then another. I clicked off the flashlight. The attic went completely dark. My heartbeat filled my ears, drowning out everything else for a moment, until the footsteps stopped right at the bottom of the attic ladder. The house settled into a terrible silence. It felt like the whole world had paused to listen. Wood creaked. Someone was touching the ladder. A hand? A foot? The ladder shifted with a soft metallic rattle. They were climbing up. I backed deeper into the attic, careful not to bump into anything. I tried to quiet my breathing, but my chest felt too tight. Every inhale too loud. The ladder groaned again. Whoever was coming up moved slowly, deliberately, like they knew I was there, but weren't in any rush to reach me. My pocket vibrated. The sound split the silence like a knife, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. With trembling fingers, I checked the phone. One new message. Don't hide. My throat clamped shut. Another rattle from the ladder. I held the phone close, its faint screen glow barely illuminating my trembling hands. Then another message appeared, same unknown number. It's not them. It's someone you know. Someone I know? The ladder creaked one last time, and a figure pulled themselves up into the attic. A dim sliver of moonlight from the small attic window outlined a silhouette, tall, broad shoulders, moving with caution but certainty. Then a whisper. Don't freak out. It's just me. The voice was familiar. I blinked, adjusting to the darkness. Daniel? I whispered back. My brother stepped closer, hands up in a disarming gesture. Yeah. You okay? I saw your door open. Thought you got robbed or something. A wave of relief hit me so fast my knees nearly buckled. I leaned back against a stack of boxes, exhaling for the first time in what felt like minutes. But then confusion. How did you get inside? I asked. You left it unlocked, he said. You do that sometimes when you're stressed. No, I didn't. I never left the door unlocked. Not since Emily died. Not since the nightmares started. Not since the texts began. Daniel must have seen the suspicion in my eyes. What's wrong? He asked. Everything. Everything was wrong. The box of secret photos sat open behind me, half hidden by the shadows. Why are you here? I whispered. He hesitated. I came to check on you. You weren't answering my calls. I didn't get any calls. Daniel froze just slightly. Then he cleared his throat, shoving his hands into his pockets. Maybe your phone glitched. My phone buzzed again. One message. From the unknown number. Ask him why he was at her funeral before you arrived. Cold washed over my skin. I stared at Daniel. He shifted his weight, suddenly avoiding my gaze. You were early to the funeral? I asked slowly. He stiffened. What? Why does that matter? You told me you got stuck in traffic. He swallowed once hard. I didn't want to stress you out. You were falling apart, man. My phone buzzed again. Ask him who he talked to outside the chapel. My stomach twisted painfully. Who were you talking to outside? I asked. Daniel's brows pulled together. What are you talking about? You were pacing, talking to someone. I saw you through the window. That was... He stopped. His jaw tightened. Just work stuff. You don't need to worry about that. Another buzz. He knows about the girl. The attic felt like it was spinning. I looked at Daniel. Really looked at him. His eyes darted briefly to the open box behind me before he caught himself and looked away. You know something, I said. He didn't answer. You knew, didn't you? My voice cracked. About Emily. About her daughter. Daniel inhaled sharply through his nose. A flicker of guilt crossed his face, quick but unmistakable. I was trying to protect you, he whispered. I stepped back. Protect me from what? He stepped forward. Please, don't do this. Not here. Not now. My phone buzzed again. He wasn't protecting you. He was protecting himself. My legs felt weak. What did you do? I asked quietly. Daniel's expression shifted pain, fear, resignation. He took another slow step toward me, palms out, as though approaching a frightened animal. I'm going to tell you everything, he said softly. But you have to calm down. You're scaring me. My phone vibrated again in my hand. A longer message this time. He was the last person to speak to her before she died. My breath caught, my pulse pounding in my ears. I whispered, barely audible, "Daniel, what did you talk to her about?" His face went white. He opened his mouth to answer, but downstairs, the front door slammed open so hard it shook the whole house. Both of us jolted, heads snapping toward the attic opening. Daniel whispered, "Who else is here?" But I didn't answer. Because my phone buzzed one last time. "They found you." The slam of the front door echoed through the house like a violent warning. Dust drifted from the attic beams. Daniel and I both froze, our breaths tangled in the thick silence that followed. Someone else was inside, and they weren't trying to be quiet about it. Heavy footsteps thundered through the hallway downstairs, fast, direct, purposeful. Whoever it was knew exactly where they were going. Daniel's eyes widened. "We need to get out of here," he whispered urgently. But we were trapped. The attic only had one entrance, and the person below was already moving toward it. I clutched the phone in my hand. The unknown number didn't send anything else. No guidance, no warning, nothing. As if the sender knew that nothing they said now could change what was coming. Daniel grabbed my arm. "Stay behind me." But I pulled away. After everything, after the lies, the secrets, the messages, I didn't know if he was someone I could trust. He noticed that hesitation. It hit him like a slap. His voice cracked when he whispered, "You really think I'd hurt you?" I didn't answer. Because the footsteps reached the base of the attic ladder. A shadow stretched up the wall. Then the ladder jerked violently. Someone was climbing much faster than Daniel had. Metal groaned as the intruder's feet hit each rung with a force that made the whole structure shake. Daniel stepped in front of me, fists clenched. The top of a head appeared, hair disheveled, face hidden in shadow, then shoulders, then a pair of eyes, glinting coldly even in the darkness. A man pulled himself into the attic, tall, muscular, black jacket, gloves. He wasn't surprised to see us. In fact, he looked like he'd expected this. He scanned the attic quickly, then his gaze locked on me. Then, on the box behind me, "Step away," he said calmly, his voice too steady for someone breaking in. "Both of you." Daniel moved instantly, stepping forward. "Who the hell are you? Get out of my brother's house." The man's jaw barely moved as he spoke. "You shouldn't be here, Daniel." The way he said his name, cold familiarity. Daniel stiffened. That was all the confirmation I needed. He knew this man. My stomach twisted. "Daniel, who is he?" Daniel didn't answer. The man stepped deeper inside. "You were supposed to keep him away from this." "Things changed," Daniel muttered. "Changed? Changed how? Since when?" My mind felt like it was splintering. "Where is she?" the man demanded suddenly. It took me a second. "Who?" "You know who," he snapped, losing patience. "Emily's daughter. Where is she?" My blood went cold. My mouth ran dry. Daniel moved slightly, blocking the man's view of me. "He doesn't know anything. Leave him alone." The man tilted his head. "He knows enough now." I felt like the floor dropped out beneath me. Emily, her hidden letters, the photos, the warnings. Everything was pointing to something bigger than just a secret child, something dangerous. Something Emily spent years trying to protect her daughter from. The man took another step forward. Daniel stepped closer, tense. "You're not touching him." The man smiled faintly. "You think you can stop me?" Daniel didn't blink. "I don't have to stop you. I just need to buy him time." Time for what? But before I could ask, the man lunged. Daniel tackled him instantly, both of them crashing into a stack of old boxes. Papers and dust exploded into the air. The sound of fists hitting flesh echoed around the cramped attic. "Run!" Daniel yelled. I stumbled backward, my legs refusing to move at first. My body was frozen between terror and disbelief. Run? Run where? There was nowhere to go except the small attic window. I grabbed the edge of a wooden beam and yanked it open. Cold night air burst in. The roof sloped downward, slick with the evening dew. Behind me, Daniel groaned in pain as the man slammed him against the floorboards. "Go!" Daniel screamed, voice breaking. I climbed out onto the roof, gripping the shingles with shaking hands. The slope was steeper than I remembered. One wrong move, and I'd fall straight into the yard. Inside the attic, I heard the man say, "You always were too emotional, Daniel." Then a thud. A cry. Silence. Panic shot through me. I turned back toward the attic opening, just in time to see the man's hand grab the window frame. He was coming after me. I scrambled upward along the roof, slipping twice, my fingers scraping rough shingles. The moon cast long shadows as I crawled toward the ridge, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. The man pulled himself halfway out of the window. He looked up at me and smiled. That smile, slow, confident, horrifying, told me he wasn't worried, told me he wasn't rushing, told me he believed he would catch me no matter where I ran. I reached the peak of the roof and swung myself over the top, sliding down the other side. But as I reached the edge, my phone buzzed. I shouldn't have checked it, but I did. A new message from the unknown number. He's not the real threat. Before I could react, I heard another voice below me in the yard. A woman's voice, calm, steady, chilling. "Come down. We need to talk." I looked over the edge of the roof. A woman stood in the moonlit grass. Her face was hidden in the shadows, but her posture, I recognized it instantly. My breath seized. It couldn't be, but it was. The woman slowly stepped into the pale light, and I saw her face. Emily, my dead wife, looking up at me. Alive. For a moment, I thought my mind had finally snapped. Grief, fear, exhaustion, all of it crashing together to form a hallucination so vivid it felt real. But the woman standing in the yard, she wasn't some misty vision or fading dream. She was solid, breathing, alive. Emily. Her face was softer than the last time I saw her, yet there was something harder underneath, an alertness in her eyes, a sharpness in her posture, like someone who had spent years running from shadows. The same woman I buried 5 years ago was staring up at me like she had been waiting this entire time for me to finally look down. "Come down," she repeated, voice almost steady. "We don't have much time." My throat closed. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't think. My hands trembled against the cold shingles. The night air felt unreal, the world tilting in ways that made no sense. Inside the attic, I heard the man curse under his breath as he climbed fully through the window. "Damn it," he snarled. She wasn't supposed to show up yet. Yet, that one small word made my blood run cold. He knew she was alive. He knew she'd come. He'd been waiting. I scrambled farther down the roof, my foot slipping against a slick patch of dew. I caught myself instinctively, grabbing the gutter with both hands. "Don't fall," Emily warned from below. "You can't get hurt. Not now." Not now? What did that mean? The man emerged on the rooftop fully, his boots scraping against the shingles. He glanced down at Emily with an expression that bordered on irritation. "You're early," he said to her. "You ruined the timing." Emily stepped forward into the moonlight, arms crossed, jaw clenched. "You've had 5 years," she replied coldly, "and you still couldn't keep him away from the truth." The man exhaled sharply. He wasn't ready. "And whose fault is that?" she snapped. They spoke like they knew each other intimately, like they had history, like this was some twisted reunion. I stared at Emily, voice cracking as I forced the words out. "You're alive? Emily, how? Why?" Her eyes flicked up to me, those eyes I once woke up to every morning, eyes that smiled when words failed her, eyes that I mourned for half a decade. But now, looking into them felt different. Something deeper, older, more shadowed, was staring back at me. "I'll explain everything," she said softly. "But not up there. Come down, please." The man took a step toward me, and Emily instantly snapped. "Don't touch him." He stopped mid-step. "Emily," he warned, "don't make this harder." "You've made it hard enough," she shot back. Their tension was razor-sharp, electric. I could feel it even from the roof. I swallowed hard and slowly began lowering myself toward the gutter. The drop wasn't huge, maybe 8 feet, but my legs felt numb. My heart pounded so violently I could barely breathe. Emily moved underneath me, positioning herself like she expected to catch me if I slipped. I didn't know whether that comforted me or terrified me. When I finally dropped, I landed unsteadily, stumbling forward. Emily reached out instinctively, steadying me with both hands. Her touch, it wasn't cold, not ghostly, not imagined, real. Every emotion I had buried clawed its way to the surface. Grief, anger, joy, confusion, betrayal. I couldn't hold them in. "You died," I whispered. "I saw your body. I watched them put you in the ground. I know," she murmured. "And I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" My voice cracked. "Emily, what is happening? Why?" The man thudded his boots against the gutter, preparing to climb down. Emily's hand tightened around my arm. "We need to go. Now." "No one's going anywhere," the man said sharply. "Not until he hears the truth." Emily turned, fury flashing in her eyes. "Not like this! Not with you threatening him." "I'm not threatening him," the man replied calmly. "I'm protecting him. By breaking into his house?" she snapped. His jaw flexed. "Everything I've done has been to keep him alive." The words hung in the air, heavy and impossible. "Alive? Me?" Emily turned back to me, her face softening again. "Please, there's a lot you don't know, and some of it is going to hurt, but we have to move before." A sharp crack split the air. A gunshot. The ground beside Emily's foot exploded with dirt and gravel. I stumbled back, nearly losing my balance. Emily pulled me behind the trunk of a tree with lightning speed. "They found us," she whispered. Again, those same words. The man jumped from the roof, landing in a crouch. "Damn it," he hissed. "We're out of time." End quote. From the dark street, several figures appeared, shadows advancing quickly, silently, like they had rehearsed this. Emily grabbed my face with both hands, forcing my eyes to hers. "You need to trust me," she whispered, urgency trembling in her voice. "How can I trust you?" I asked. Pain, confusion, betrayal, flooding every syllable. "You lied to me. You let me bury you." "I know." Tears filled her eyes, real tears. Not the imagined ones I'd cried alone for years. But I had to. I had to disappear. It was the only way to protect our daughter. My heart slammed to a stop. Our daughter. I couldn't breathe. The man stepped forward, pulling a weapon from his jacket. "Emily now," he ordered. Emily grabbed my hand. "Run." Gunshots erupted from the street. And we ran into the darkness together, me, the woman I buried, and the truth I wasn't ready to face. We ran through the neighborhood like ghosts, fleeing a nightmare that refused to end. The sharp crack of gunfire echoed behind us, bullets snapping through branches, thudding into tree trunks. My breath came in ragged gasps, but Emily kept pulling me forward with a strength I didn't remember her having. Her fingers were cold, trembling, but her grip was unbreakably firm, like she had spent years preparing for this single moment. The man, whoever he really was, ran behind us, covering our path, firing back at the shadows, pursuing us. Every few seconds I heard him shout instructions. "Left. Down the hill. Stay close." Emily yanked me toward a narrow side street, barely lit by a single flickering lamp that buzzed weakly in the cold night air. I stumbled, nearly falling, but she caught me again, always catching me. I didn't know whether to cling to her or recoil from her. My heart was too tangled to decide. "Emily," I gasped. "What is happening? Who are they? Who are you with? Why?" "No questions now," she whispered without turning back. "But our daughter,